Good afternoon. Welcome to a special late edition, free agency edition of the Cohn Zone. That's the original Cohn, Lowell Cohn, my dad. I'm Junior Cohn, Grant Cohn, Junior Patna, as our friend used to call me. How you doing, Dad?
I'm doing fine, Iggy. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Dad. It's free agency. It hasn't officially started yet, but the Niners have made moves. They're not done, but they've made some changes to their team. And we're doing an academic exercise today. Are the 49ers on paper better than they were in the Super Bowl exactly a month ago today? That's where we're starting. So, Dad, let's get right into it.
We know that there'll be more changes to come and the team will improve. We understand all that. We're just doing it for the heck of it because it's this week. Are they a better team than they were the day of the Super Bowl? I would say no, that they're not a better team the day of the Super Bowl. Can I give one reason?
Sure.
Their defensive line seems to be in flux.
Yeah. Flux is the flux capacitor, and not in a good way.
The flux capacitor, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they cut Arik Armstead. It was a bold move. You want to get rid of a guy a year too early, not a year too late. But they lost Arik Armstead, and they replaced him with Jordan Elliott, who's not Arik Armstead. And then at the end, they added Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos, who are some guys. They're two players. They also lost some guys. I mean, I think Leonard Floyd's better than the guys they lost, but so far it looks like the Niners, they're not better. And we'll get into this later. All their additions have been on the defense.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So currently, they're not as good on the defense. They have work to do on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But in the secondary and the linebackers, they are as good. I mean, we assume Greenlaw's going to come back. We can't predict. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Back there, they're okay, but there seems to be turmoil. I would say turmoil on the defensive line, but we know they're very committed to that. But they have holes to fill.
Yeah, they really do. I wonder, we'll talk about Armstead in a little bit. I wonder if the Niners really thought he was going to take that pay cut. It's possible they thought, Armstead's one of us. He wants to be here. We've taken care of him. He'll take care of us. And when he said, I want to be a free agent, I wonder if the Niners had to scramble a little bit and figure out what they were going to do to reconfigure this defensive line. They've brought in three guys, Yetur Gross-Matos, Leonard Floyd, and Jordan Elliott. Is that as good as just having Arik Armstead? Maybe when Armstead's hurt, yeah, you'd rather have these guys. But
also they had Kinlaw too.
Kinlaw, that's true. Kinlaw, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell. They lost 5 defensive linemen and added 3. Yeah, so they still have a lot of work to do.
Are they better on offense?
They lost their backup quarterback. So if Brock Purdy misses any time, Brandon Allen has to actually play, which I don't know that that's his strong suit, playing. They lost their backup tight end who didn't catch that many passes, but he's gone, and they don't really have a replacement. So they haven't improved the offense, per se.
I got a question for
Colton
you.
McKivitz, though, Dad.
They re-signed Colton. They like Colton McKivitz.
They like Colton. I like Colton McKivitz.
God love him. He, you know what? He's a reliable player, but he's not a great player. The great player is at the left tackle.
Right.
Although he didn't play great in the Super Bowl.
No, he was not good.
Not good in the Super Bowl.
Not good. It was interesting. In the Super Bowl, the guys on the offense, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, didn't play well.
No.
We'll
get back to that later.
Yeah.
But here's what I do want to say. The backup quarterback now is Brandon Allen, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we agree, if he has to come into a game, they're sunk because his strong suit isn't playing. He's probably very good in the meetings and in practice. And
incredible in meetings.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're going to need a real number 2 quarterback.
Right.
Because I'm not saying that Brock Purdy's going to get hurt, but quarterbacks get hurt, and he got hurt one time. So quarterbacks get hurt. Are we going to go next training camp through the insanity we went through with Trey Lance and all of this stuff all over again? So is that going to be the big story? Who's going to be the backup quarterback?
I hope not. I don't. I wonder. I wonder if the Niners think they're just set at quarterback and they can run with Brandon Allen. That's good. Maybe they may not even add a quarterback, or maybe they'll add one to the practice squad, which would be bold.
Iggy,
bold.
do you think Brandon Allen is a suitable number 2 quarterback?
No. He's a guy who could lose a lot of games on this team. I mean, you want someone like Flacco or Browning, someone who could actually win for a month or two on a good team. That's what the Niners have. So I think they'll draft a guy or maybe sign a guy as an undrafted free agent, thinking they can strike gold like they did with Brock Purdy. But if not, then it's Brandon Allen time, baby.
Well, okay. But what I'm saying is they've actually gotten worse on offense.
I would have to, considering they've added nothing to it.
And they lost their backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Who's getting worse on offense? $10 million by Minnesota.
Yeah, but it's okay because they scored 22 in the Super Bowl and we're 3 for 12 on third down. So they're good on offense.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah. A couple super chats. SD 49er Grant, the People's Champ. When are you going to sit down with Lynch, Frost Nixon 2.0? I did sit down with Lynch 5 years ago. Maybe it's time to do it again. The thing that's cool about Lynch is he would do it.
Do it.
He would. Matt McEwen says, "Hey guys, how you both doing? Matt Toast is Amenahue 2.0." Ooh, well, that would be something else because Amenahue's a hell of a player. Fish and Chips says, "Show of the week, bar none, the real Floyd."
Hi, Fish and Chips.
Hey, Fish and Chips. Okay, I got another question. We don't think the Niners have improved, but they were far and away the best team in the NFC West last season. Are they still the best team in the NFC West?
Okay. I would tend to think they are. Let's say, first of all, I rule out Arizona and Seattle. I just rule them out. Forget it. The Rams are improving. And the Rams, what do I want to say? The Rams are improving. The Rams are younger than the 49ers. Sean McVay, I think he's a bit of a BS artist, but he actually rallied the young players and they improved. And what the Rams have, they have, as much as I like Brock Purdy, and I really, really do, I think the Rams quarterback is a little better. Matthew Stafford.
I don't think that's outrageous to say. He won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the coach, even though he loses a lot of games to Kyle Shanahan, he did win a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl. And Kyle, I'm going to say it in a very provocative way. Kyle can't win a Super Bowl.
Right.
It's not that he hasn't won. He can't win a Super Bowl. When he does, let me know. But he can't win a Super Bowl. So what I'm saying is, I thought it was wide open for the Niners last season in the NFC West, but I think it'll be very close with them and the Rams this season. I'm still going to say the Niners by a hair, but that could change. What about you?
It could change. I agree with that. It seemed like the Rams were gaining on the Niners down the stretch last season. They lost a close game to the Lions, who lost a close game to the Niners in the playoffs. What I think is interesting about the Rams, you said that they have a maybe a better quarterback than the Niners. They also seem to have a better offensive line than the Niners. Their big move in free agency the last couple of days was to sign Pro Bowl guard Jonah Jackson. He was with the Lions. Now he's with the Rams. So the Niners have a better team than the Rams. They have a better running game, better tight end, better linebackers. But the Rams have the better quarterback and the better pass protection. And those are the two most important things in football. So, yeah, it's getting pretty serious between these two teams.
Yeah, and again, I'm puzzled because Kyle Shanahan never seems to value the offensive line, and I'm puzzled by that. I don't know the guy, but I think it's a flaw in his thinking.
It's the way his dad thought as well. It's a little outdated. And what's interesting to me is Sean McVay comes from the same coaching tree. He got his start with Washington when he was like 23, 24. So he understands that philosophy. And he just went out and got Jonah Jackson, and he's investing in his offensive line and pass protection. He seems to get it. Whereas Kyle Shanahan's still trying to build around his running game and defense.
Yeah.
I get building around your running game and defense when your quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo or Brian Hoyer or CJ Beathard, by all means, but not when it's Brock Purdy.
Yeah. Are we saying, are we saying that Kyle Shanahan, his thinking is a little old school, a little outdated?
I would have to say so. He's a little too faithful to his dad's formula. And I understand that. But even I had to divert from your formula a little bit to have success.
You had to divert a whole lot. I was a print journalist, and you're a yakety yakety yak.
I'm a yakety yakety yak.
Yakety yakety yak. Don't talk back.
Yeah.
So it's you do a whole different thing from me.
So are they still the best team in the NFC West? Probably. Then are they still the best team in the NFC? The Lions don't seem like they've made a big move yet, but that's the team they got to worry about. Green Bay too. Green Bay just went out and got, who's the running back they got? Josh Jacobs? Am I wrong? Yeah, he's really good. He was with the Raiders. Now he's in the Packers.
He's a hell of a running back. They got him.
They got him.
Iggy, I love that running back.
He's great.
The Raiders, they're like a minor league
farm
team. Farm team. They give good players to other teams.
Yeah, and they take in players and give them a nice little retirement bonus, like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right. Yeah, I love it. The kid is doing what the father did at the end. He's running a franchise like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple of supers. Jad says, as a man, I'd consider myself emotionally measured, but this damn football team gets me so irate. Maybe I just need to grow up. I don't know. I'm sad.
Don't be sad.
Don't be sad. You want to keep an emotional distance from this team. Jay Garza's been a member for 27 months. Thank you very much. NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC says we still have the Mona Lisa of chokers at head coach. It's true. He does it in new and beautiful ways. Gold Tao says Hunter is that dog. We got Old Yeller. Hunter. Who are we talking about? Hunter? Fish and Chips says, lol, how many Super Bowls has Kyle won in his head? Grant, my theory is slowly coming together. Matt McEwen thinks the Niners are going to make a big investment at cornerback, and I'd love to see it. Kev F says, would Kyle Shanahan losing 2 Super Bowls lose the locker room? Well, he has. Do you think Kyle Shanahan has lost the locker room, and that's why a player such as Arik Armstead has requested to be released?
I'm in no position to know that. I haven't talked to the players. It would be irresponsible of me to give an opinion.
Dad, there's a clear theme in the Niners offseason.
Yep.
It's all the defense's fault. That's what the Niners want you to realize. They got rid of the coordinator. They brought in an extra guy to help the new coordinator. They totally reshuffled the defensive line and have done nothing to the offense. What is going on?
Okay, we were just talking about Kyle Shanahan's head, what's going on in his head. I think what's happening so far is a pretty good example of what's happening in his head. So let me try. We lost the Super Bowl because at the very end, that defense let us down, and especially Steve Wilkes. I mean, he did hold them to 19, Kansas City to 19 throughout regulation, but his guys were tired, they weren't prepared, and they lost. And so I have to completely redo. I have to get rid of him. I have to bring in another guy who God even knows if he can do it, but I'll bring a guy to help him. And I'll redo the whole defensive line again. But when it comes to the offense, we were great. We scored 19 points right, Iggy? 19 points in regulation. That's a hell of a lot of points to score.
And they kicked a field goal in overtime. That was really impressive.
They kicked the field goal. I mean, my offense is exactly where I need it to be. And I'm the best play caller, perhaps in the history of the league, except for my father.
Yeah.
The two of us.
Yeah.
We should be on Mount Rushmore, the two of us.
Yeah.
So
that Bill Walsh guy. What about us?
Really, what about us? So I don't really need to do jack about my offense because although the guys didn't perform well, although they're going to be a year older, we got it knocked. Now let's talk about who didn't perform well. Hold on. We were talking about the left tackle. Didn't he get called for penalties on 2 consecutive plays?
Yeah, and he was getting knocked over by cornerbacks on run plays. Like, he didn't play well.
So
He looked old.
that's one.
Yeah, but also unprepared with the penalties. Good call.
Yeah, unprepared. The tight end, he was yakety yak. He was
Yeah, he was
literally
making
yakety,
jokes.
making jokes. While CMC dropped the ball, he's making jokes. The guy he's joking to, George, he gets it.
He
So
wants to be a yakety yak guy like me, but he's not.
he's not.
No.
So he wasn't prepared. You know, I'm not. Are we talking about? Do we talk? Well, the wide receiver. We're going to talk about him later.
Well, we'll get to him. I mean, he was apparently trying to fight the whole game and ended up with like 40 yards. He wasn't particularly prepared. Debo couldn't get open. He wasn't prepared. And McCaffrey fumbled and averaged less than 4 yards a carry. Not his best game.
And hold on. The offensive line couldn't pick up all those blitzes the whole game. They never adjusted. And you have to think Kyle has some association with the offense since he calls the plays.
Again, as a group, 3 for 12 on third down.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at is a team. No, I'm looking at a head coach who says, I was great.
Mhm.
And my unit was great. This is all the stuff Grant is making up. And his old father Lowell. What the hell do they know? The offense was great. The defense sucked. So we're going to improve. We're going to improve the defense because that was the what let us down.
It also seems like he's saying the offense was good enough and the defense is held to a higher standard. Like 19 points for the offense. Hey, that's fine. No, that's great. We are built to win with our defense. Like, why? You're an offensive coach. What do you know about defense? If you want to win with defense, then make yourself the offensive coordinator and get a head coach who knows defense. I don't understand why the Niners have this philosophy. It made sense when Jimmy was the quarterback, but now that you have a Pro Bowl MVP candidate at quarterback, you really want to put the game in the hands of Steve Wilkes or Nick Sorensen? It's a passing league. It's an offensive league, and you're going against Patrick Mahomes. Get it done, Steve. What are you talking about? I don't get it.
Really? I
don't get it at all. It's like Bill Walsh being like, you know what? We're going to win with our defensive line this year. What?
So what I'm saying is Kyle underperformed in the Super Bowl. I don't care how many people write, don't blame Kyle, or Kyle is really good, or he's such a genius. He underperformed. One of the reasons, I'm not saying the only reason, but I have to say the main reason they lost the Super Bowl is because he's the head coach.
And I would think some of the players in the team agree with that. Finally.
I would have to think. Now, does that mean he's losing the locker room? I have no idea. If I were in that locker room, he would have lost me 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I would say
he's supposed to be a premier offensive coach. He wants to win with defense. He's supposed to be a premier head coach. He can't hold a lead in the Super Bowl and doesn't really know the rules for the league. That's a problem. It's like he had the best roster in football and couldn't get it done. What does that guy need to get it done?
He had a better roster than the Chiefs.
Everyone thought the Niners were going to win that game. I don't understand. They were favorites. They had the better roster. They had the lead. They just didn't have a head coach who knew the rules. It's a tough one.
So, okay, I got a question for you. Let's help him out. Because, Kyle, you need some help.
Mm-hmm.
On March 12th, 2024, you need some help. You got to stop with all this defensive stuff. Iggy, what does he need? Let's name a few things. Kyle, pay attention, and I want you to take notes. What does Kyle need on offense for starters?
An offensive line. You got it all, buddy. You need the 5 guys on that protect the quarterback. You got one really, really good one, couple of decent ones, and 2 guys who were just guys on the right side. Every time you play the Chiefs, You lose because the right side of your offensive line can't block. It happened 5 years ago. It happened a month ago. They got Chris Jones and George Karlaftis side by side on that side, caving in your offensive line, and you can't do anything about it. McVay just figured it out. He just got a Pro Bowl guard in free agency and gave him like $16, $17 million a year. You're over here spending $7 million a year on your right tackle. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. You either value that position or you don't, and that's a problem.
Okay, so improve the offensive line. I would say they have a very good wide receiver in Brandon Aiyuk. I don't think Deebo Samuel is at that level anymore. And I'm telling you, my gut feeling is Bill Walsh would get rid of him. Yeah. Right now, where he could get maybe something for him. I think they need a legitimate threat to go along with Aiyuk. Now, is Juwan Jennings that legitimate threat?
I think Juwan Jennings is a hell of a number 3 receiver, but not necessarily a number 2. And the way I look at Deebo right now is he looks like kind of an extension of the running game at this point, a guy you could throw a screen pass to. But those are extended handoffs.
Yeah. So maybe they need improvement in wide receiver. Iggy, they also need another tight end.
They absolutely do. They also need another quarterback.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's going to be in training camp. That's going to be the big news. Who's going to be the number 2 quarterback? It's going to resonate. It's going to be on you're going to be talking about it. Everybody's going to be talking about it. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't come down to that. They should have a guy that's really good. Is Flacco available?
Let me see. He stays on the Browns. Hold on.
He stayed on the Browns?
Is he?
Interesting. I like him for
I don't see him. Game. He might be a free agent. I think he's a free agent. Yeah, what's wrong with him? Did I lose you? Hold on. I'm still here. He's a free agent.
Talk a little. You may be breaking up again. Talk a little.
Sorry. He's a free agent. Joe Flacco. Definitely a free agent.
What about Browning?
He's a I don't think the Niners can get him. He's an exclusive rights free agent. Flacco's an unrestricted free agent.
I don't know if he had to play 2 or 3 games, he'd be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. He would.
Yeah,
that'd be better. That would be better.
So the point is, Iggy, Kyle has needs that we just identified, and any boob could identify. We weren't geniuses to identify it, and he's doing all the work on the defense. Hello, McFly.
It's convenient to put all the pressure on the defense and say that's how we're going to win. You can't blame the offense if they lose a game. They're not really. That's not what they're there for. They're there to complement the defense. Complementary football. No, I think when you have a quarterback as good as Purdy, you want to optimize him, give him the best pass protection you can, and see how good he can be. Because when he has time to throw, he seems like he's really good.
He's wonderful. I love to watch him play.
Yeah. He doesn't always have time to throw, especially in the playoffs,
especially in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I thought Iggy, when I thought about it more and looked at it more, I thought he did a really beautiful job in the playoffs, given what he was up against. And part of what he was up against was his own head coach, who didn't help him out.
And the veterans who weren't locked in. I totally agree. And what's interesting is, like, if the Chiefs had lost that game the way the Niners lost it, giving up all that pressure from those blitzes that they couldn't pick up, you think Andy Reid would come back a month later and just focus on the defense? No. He would totally change something about his offense. He would take it seriously, fix it. Whereas Kyle is in denial. He's avoiding the issues on his offense.
Yeah. Kyle, pay attention.
McShanahan. Jay Garza says, what is wrong with the front office and head coach that they can't see the team's obvious roster weaknesses, right guard, center, right tackle, and don't address it for years?
I can't answer that one.
That's a good question for the coach. Fish and Chip says, QC asked Kyle Shanahan, O-line is strong when you upgrading the D-line.
That's what we're wondering. Richie
says they missed the Super Bowl window. Teams have caught up to them. The biggest deficiency that they can't overcome is Kyle Shanahan coaching in big moments in big games. Marv Levy was a better coach. Marv didn't choke. It's also Jewish.
Yeah, let's give him credit for that.
You think he had a bar mitzvah? Marv Levy?
I would say almost certainly.
Almost certainly. And that's why he had so much success. He was bar mitzvah. Richie, thank you. Jay Garza, how can they win a Super Bowl with an owner who celebrates NFC titles, years of wasted draft capital, prioritizing defense in an offensive-driven league, head coach scapegoats, everyone else, obvious roster weaknesses?
Gee, Jay, you don't seem
Other than that, I think they got it. Slide 23 says Kyle needs to stop going to Cabo, getting drunk before the Super Bowl with the Cabo crew, and start studying the rules and learning how to maintain a lead. Whew. Now, I didn't see him in Cabo this year. I saw the pictures. I didn't see him there. So maybe he's way ahead of you, Slide. You think that?
Iggy, did people go to Cabo this year?
I saw, yeah, they always put it in the New York Post. The paparazzi find him. And this year it was Kittle and his wife, and McCaffrey and his wife, and Juszczyk and his wife. So the three amigos went down, had a good time. Nothing wrong with that. I just thought it was inappropriate to have the coach there with them, and I didn't see him there.
But the three amigos went. Well, good for them.
Good for them. I wasn't invited. Next time I'll just go. All right, let's pause for our sponsor. Pardon?
Okay. I was just wondering why you dipped down there.
Oh, yeah, it's sponsor time. It's sleeper pick time. Let's make some picks, Dad. Warriors play tomorrow night, and they're an extremely mediocre team, which is interesting. They're going to be playing Dallas, and they still got no Steph. I call him Steph because I know him personally. We have dinner from time to time. So, Dad, let's make some picks. Chris Paul, starting point guard for the Warriors, 11.5 points, more or less.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Dallas. What's their record?
Dallas, their record is 37-28. The Warriors are 34-30. This is going to be in Dallas tomorrow.
Okay. So Dallas is a better team and they're at home.
Yeah.
All right. So is CP3 going to be the starting point
He's going to be the starting guy. Points. The over-under for him is 11.5. He had 19 in the last game. He's starting now.
I'd give it over.
I would too.
He has that medium jumper that he always seems to be able to get, and he's deadly with it. He's not a three-point shooter, but I hate the three-point shot. He's very good there, and he's a beautiful passer. Not that we're talking about passing. I'm going to give him more.
Okay.
More.
On the other team, their best player is Luka Doncic, who has the ball all the time. He's had, I believe, 7 or 8 triple doubles in a row. Do you want to do the triple double over under? Will he have one or not? Well, we can do points instead of 33.5. That's high.
Let's do the
triple double.
Hold on a minute. I'm thinking about the Warriors defense. Yeah, I'm saying he's going to get a triple double.
I think he will too. The Warriors defense doesn't seem like it's so hot these days.
No.
Hey,
remember triple single?
Triple single. How about triple single? Draymond Green. Let's do one more and just keep it at 3. Points, rebounds, and assists combined. 21.5. How about that? Last game he had 15. Game before that he had 16. So he's really struggling these days.
I'm going to go with, for him, whatever it is, under.
Less.
Under.
Okay, Draymond Green, Mr. Triple Single. Let's stick with that. Chris Paul, more on the points. That's our pick. Luka Doncic going to have a triple-double. Draymond Green, less than 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined. I'm still looking to get off the schneid. Haven't won any of these. My brother recently downloaded the app, used the my code, and he hasn't lost yet. 3 for 3 because he's smart.
Really?
Yeah, he's smart. So I'm locking it in. Boom. Submit the entry. You guys want to play at home? Use promo code COHN. Get the deposit match up to $500 and get entered in a contest to win a signed Brandon Aiyuk jersey. All right.
I'm having dinner with your brother tonight.
Yeah, tell him I say hello.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Arik Armstead requested a release. The Niners asked him to take a pay cut. I don't know if they thought he would do him a solid. Did he owe him one?
No. Did Arik Armstead owe the 49ers the courtesy of taking a pay cut? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a business.
Mhm.
They want him to take a pay cut because it's good for their business.
Mhm.
He doesn't want to take a pay cut because it's not good for his business. It's not about personal feelings, and it's not about loyalty. It's a business. It's not about loyalty. So, no, I think I have no problem with him saying, I refuse your offer. He's entitled to.
Yeah. If I were him, I'd be surprised. Like, wait a second. Your plan financially for 2024 was to ask me to take a pay cut? You didn't plan this out to have some cap space any other way? Like, I'm not here to help you out. This is a business, and you guys should have done planning. You should plan better.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's what his agent thinks and what his agent told them.
Yeah.
So let's move on from that, because he has every right to say, I don't like your offer. Now, what happened there? It's hard to figure out. So he says, and if I'm wrong, correct me. He says, I reject your offer. I have a year left with you. Does he have a year left?
Mhm.
I would like to try my chances elsewhere. I would like to be a free agent. And they say,
Sure.
Okay, we'd like you. You can. We'll cut ties with you. So, what does that tell you?
It tells you that they think that Armstead's worth way less than the $28.5 million they were going to have to, that it was going to take up on their salary cap to keep him. So they must have said, look, you're not worth $28.5 million, but we think you're worth X on the market. So we'll give you, let's say it's $16 million instead of 28. Well, you're worth 16. We're going to give you 16 this year. How do you feel? And he could say, no, I think I'm worth 22. He can go find out if he is. But if he goes on the open market, go ahead.
Well, would you have the theoretical 16 and the 28? Who's closer to reality?
Yeah.
At 16? Now, again, I'd like to make 16 million for the rest of my life, however long that is. So who's closer to reality, the low ball of the Niners or the high ball that we know is 28 of Armstead? Who is more in the real world?
The 49ers.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. I think they have every reason to ask him to take a pay cut. And I don't think his self-evaluation is realistic.
I agree.
So Iggy, he's going to put himself on the free market now, on the open market. They haven't really cut him yet. Nothing has happened. Okay. So we got to be real clear on that.
Yeah.
There may be things still going on, but let's say he goes on the open market. Is he going to get $28 million?
No.
No.
Not in a pig's eye.
No.
He's going to get humbled big time because he sees himself as a premier defensive tackle in the league, where I think the Niners see him as a guy who has plantar fasciitis and always will. And even when he's on the field, he's not what he used to be.
Right. And Iggy, what he used to be was never great. Was he ever an all-pro?
No.
No. I mean, guy.
Was he ever a Pro Bowler?
Yeah.
No.
So this is a guy who is supposed to make $28 million. He's never been an all-pro or a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's a body in the middle. You know, he's a little better than he's okay. He's okay. C+, B-. That's the kind of player he is. So let's think of this. He goes on the open market and he finds out no one really wants me at that price. He might come back to the 49ers.
Yeah. Actually, I'm getting the same offers or worse from other teams. And I'm from Sacramento. My family's out there. And I have, maybe I'll just stay with he's got a foundation out here. He might come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Niners didn't say they didn't want him. No. They said they didn't want him at that price.
Right. And it sounded like they were negotiating for a while and talks broke down. So Armstead, you think you can get more elsewhere? Prove it.
Yeah, because you won't. And I'd like to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Are you going to go sign somewhere else for the same offer the Niners are giving you just to spite them and yourself? Because now you're going to wind up on a worse team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if a team called me and said, Grant, what do you think? We're considering signing Arik Armstead. Should we do it? No. He's not healthy. He won't be healthy. His body's breaking down. It's a bad investment.
Well, what if we didn't sign him for the 28? What if we signed them for 11 million?
How long is the contract going to be?
1 year.
Give it a shot. 3-year contract? No, thanks. Don't do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, give it a shot. He's only 30, but be realistic that he's coming off a meniscus tear right now. He's had plantar fasciitis for the last 2 years. It could all be over now. He could be done right now. So, we'll see. He might come back to this team. Nathan Flores, Danielle Hunter went to Houston. I see D'Amico winning a ring before Kyle Banana Hands does. Danielle Hunter was the top defensive end on the market. He's excellent. I think he had 16 and a half sacks last year. He's a monster. And D'Amico got him. Good for D'Amico. Fish and chips. Nice Herge poster, Lowell, Blue Lotus, 1934. That's 10-10.
10-10.
10-10.
My wife put all of that up for our grandchildren.
Jay Garza says, this is the highlight of my week watching the Cohns, dad and son working together. Beautiful.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. All right, Dad.
Yes.
Before we get out of here, another thing looming over the 49ers this offseason is Brandon Aiyuk's extension.
Yeah.
They're going to figure out how much is fair. The wide receiver market is outrageous. He could probably ask for 25, 26, 27 million dollars a season and have a good argument for it based on his production. So that brings us to what Dave Merritt said about Brandon Aiyuk. Dave Merritt interviewed for the Niners defensive coordinator job, didn't get it. He's the DB coach for the Chiefs. Just tell people what he said. People remember, but you tell them. You remind them.
Well, first of all, he either didn't remember Aiyuk's name or pretended not to remember. Either way, it's a mark of disrespect.
Yeah.
He wanted to show the world that he didn't respect Aiyuk.
Yeah.
Now, he also didn't respect Kyle. He didn't respect the Niners offense, but he went out of his way not to respect Aiyuk. And he said, and this is a paraphrase, but it's pretty close, that instead of playing football, he was getting into fights all day.
Yeah.
And he said it with scorn and ridicule in his voice. Would you agree, Iggy?
Yeah.
And what that means is that he wasn't serious about the Super Bowl.
No.
Because if you're there to play football, you're not there to be distracted the way Kittle was, hi George, or to get into fights after plays. Your job is to get your butt back into the huddle, hear the next play, think it through, compose yourself, and be great on that play.
Yeah.
You don't have time to get into a fight. So if I were in charge of contracts at the 49ers, I would recognize this kid is a real talent, but I would have serious questions about his attitude. Now, we used to praise him, Iggy, because in training camp, he once got into it with Fred Warner. He's defending his teammates. Great. That's a great thing to do in training camp. In games, you got to play. In games, you got to play.
I agree.
I'm going to tell a story without using a name that I told Iggy earlier today. In 1992, I was with the Stanford football team. I did a book on Bill Walsh coming back to Stanford. After, in a game, there was a prominent player on that team, Stanford, and it's been so long. He either got a bad penalty for fighting, or I think he got thrown out. And afterward, there was, the team comes together in the locker room afterward, and Bill was outraged. And he named a prominent 49er who you would all know who he is. And he said, he never got thrown out of a game. He never got a penalty for fighting. So what are you doing? You're
Mhm.
a football player. You weren't
Mhm.
thinking about football. I don't want players like that on my team.
Mhm.
So what Bill would have said to Aiyuk is, what the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be playing, catching passes, getting back to the huddle, getting ready for the next play. You're on the field fighting in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I don't want that. If you're going to be like that, I'm going to send you to Buffalo. That's what Bill
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Ayuk. He's tough. He's talented. He's really, really good, and that side of him is admirable in practice because he sets the tone in a lot of ways. And he's a great blocker, and he plays with his anger. That's great, but he takes it too far, and it seems like he's emotional. And smart teams can use that against him, and did. And I wonder what the Chiefs would think of Brandon Aiyuk. Is that someone they would want to invest in? I mean, you're giving a guy $25 million, $26 million a season. It's not just for his talent. It's to be impeccably professional and mature. And I'm not sure that Aiyuk is. You don't know this, Dad, but Aiyuk is on social media. And before the Super Bowl, he made a little video about fighting in football games and how, players kind of start stuff, but they don't really want to fight because if you know, throw a hand at a face mask or shoulder pad, you're not going to do anything. If you're really serious about fighting on a football field, this is what Aiyuk said. You got to go for the throat because that's the one area on a football player that's not really covered. It's exposed. So if you really are about fighting, and you really want to, Aiyuk challenges NFL players to go for the throat. He made that video like a week before, 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. That's what he was thinking about.
Iggy, he really did
I
that?
watched the video. Yes.
See, it's the job of the head coach or someone to tell the head coach about that. It's the job of the head coach to watch it and to come over to Aiyuk and say, you're focusing on the wrong things. I want you to focus on your route running. I don't want you to think for a minute about throats. I didn't know that, Iggy.
True.
I don't, Iggy, I don't like that. Are you there to show you're macho or to
Right.
win the goddamn game?
Right.
I don't like that at all. And there needs to be somebody, the wide receivers coach, Shanahan, to enlighten this kid and say what you're doing is detrimental to the team. And I want to tell you something. When Merritt talked about him, he talked about him with ridicule.
Ridicule.
Like ridicule.
Yeah.
Like this guy lost his track.
Doesn't get it.
This doesn't get it.
Mm-mm.
They were probably in team meetings
Mhm.
saying, let's get this guy pissed off.
Yeah.
We can beat him.
Push him
Let's
after
do
the
that.
play. Just push him after the play.
Push him after the play. Because
Yeah.
he, as opposed to looking at
something to
you
him.
and saying, you're an idiot, and
Yeah.
going back to the huddle. Now, listen, Iggy, I never saw Jerry Rice get into a fight. We can agree
What are
that
you
Jerry
trying to
Rice
prove?
is better than Aiyuk.
Yeah, you just beat him by catching the ball and then having
Catch
100
the
yards at the
ball.
end of the game. You had 40 yards at the end of the game, but you didn't take any crap from those DBs. When
Yeah,
they
you
said
won
something
some
to you.
fights. You won some fights.
But you had 40 yards in the biggest game of your life.
Oh, I didn't know about that video.
Yeah. So
It's interesting. Bill Walsh really admired Jerry Rice. And one time, I think we were up at Washington State that Stanford was playing up there. And, the guys were getting dressed before the game, and Bill and I were just hanging around. Bill liked to talk. And he said, Lowell, I want to tell you, before 49er games, Jerry didn't know this, but I used to stand and peek at him getting dressed. And he said he would put on everything so carefully and so meticulously. He would put on his socks and, his pants and his jersey and all of that. And he'd look in the mirror and everything had to be perfect. And then he'd fold a little towel and put it in his waistband. And he said, Lowell, what it meant to me was he was a perfectionist in his uniform because he was perfectionist in his playing.
Mhm.
He was homogeneous that way. He was a perfectionist. And I used to watch it and feel so proud of Jerry.
I like that
Think you
story.
feel proud of Aiyuk?
So you mentioned something before. I wanted to make a point. You said, "What is he trying to do? What is he trying to be? Macho?" And to me, like, let's go back to their first loss of the season. They went to Cleveland. They were 5-0. They waltzed onto that field. You know how they do with the boom box, kind of strutting onto the field like they're Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? Like they're about to knock you out. That's kind of what they're going for. They walk onto the field to the music. They run through the Browns warm up and knock into them. And Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Aiyuk getting a little bit of a skirmish. They don't call it fights in football. There's a little bit of a skirmish before the game. Disrespectful, macho bullshit. And they lost. Deebo got hurt. Trent Williams got hurt. They fucking lost. It was embarrassing. Sorry to curse. But that's kind of this team. Like they have this whole macho edge. And I guess it worked against the Eagles. But the Chiefs really weren't impressed. The Browns really weren't impressed. The Ravens really weren't fucking intimidated. But that's who the Niners are. The tough guys in the nice neighborhood that is the NFC.
Right. They're the tough guys in the nice neighborhood. Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh. But then when it's time to really compete, it's like, oh, we've never seen this. I guess we're not as tough as we thought. Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway,
I got it from you. You're a bad influence.
I know.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, so Aiyuk, you need to pay attention too and take some notes. Grant and I really admire your ability and how you play when you play well.
Yeah.
You don't always play well because sometimes you let the other team take you out of the game, and you did that in the Super Bowl, and it's not right. And a guy like that doesn't deserve $25 million a season.
Yeah, and it's one thing, like, you're a young player, you haven't gotten the extension yet, everyone's pulling for you. But when you're making 25, 26, whatever you want to make a year, and you have a game in the Super Bowl where you have 40 yards and 3 fights, people are going to notice and really hold it against you. Like, look at Deebo. Deebo didn't get any fights. He just didn't catch the ball very much, and people have been crushing him all offseason because he makes a lot of money. That's what you have to look forward to, man. So if you're going to be worth the money, you have to be more than good. You have to be reliable, professional, mature, and all that stuff. And that's a question with you. I mean, that's what the Chiefs think. And who are the Chiefs?
2-time Super Bowl winners.
Yeah, they're no Niners. They're not tough like the Niners.
Yeah, and you got to remember, Aiyuk, that Merritt was making fun of you. He wouldn't even dignify you with a name because in his mind, you didn't earn a name. You were the schlemiel who was fighting.
Can we look at what Jerry Rice did in his first Super Bowl? Should we look? Not that that's the bar. I'm just curious. What did Jerry Rice do in his first Super Bowl? Let's see. Okay, that was 1989. He had 11 catches for 215 yards and a touchdown. It's pretty good. It's pretty. Oh, and the next year in the Super Bowl, he had 7 catches for 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Really?
How old was he though? He was 26. Okay, so he's about Aiyuk's age. I don't know. I'll see what the excuse is. You want this money? Like, have more than 40 yards in the biggest game of your life. I don't know.
And as I say, Jerry used to get angry at the media. He used to get angry at me, although now we get along great. And he used to get angry at Ira. But I never saw him fighting. I saw him. He was above it. That's the point. Iggy, he was above it. You got a beef against me? Beat me on the next play. Yeah. Because I'm going to beat you. And that's all that matters. He was above it. And Aiyuk needs to grow up and be above it.
Yeah. And it's like, you didn't get that many targets. Well, maybe if you were locked in and not fighting with the other DBs when they told you that you weren't having a good game, you would have got more targets. I don't know what to say, man.
Yeah.
It seemed like the 2 guys who had trouble getting targets, Aiyuk and Kittle, were the 2 guys who had trouble locking in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Okay, so the Niners are going to give Aiyuk this extension, most likely, and he probably deserves it. What would the Chiefs do? Probably not give him the extension.
May say, how much more does he have on his contract?
He's a year.
How many?
It just doesn't seem like they respect him enough to give him all that money. They seem like a team that would trade him for an offensive lineman.
I see what you're saying.
But I don't know. I can't prove it. It's just the way they talk about him. It's like,
Can they
replaceable.
franchise tag him?
They could. It would just be expensive and it would create an acrimonious relationship and all that. But I don't know. Trade him now. Get a first round pick for him. They won't.
Okay,
But they
I
might.
want to ask you something. Do you expect them to give him an extension in the offseason and he would get $25 million starting when? Next season?
Starting in 2025.
Do you expect them to do that?
I do. I think Kyle Shanahan wants to keep Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay.
His team.
And keep him happy.
Yeah.
Last question. If they do that, would that be caving in?
Well, yeah. I mean, it seems to me that a player trying to get this extension is doing everything right. He's on his best behavior. He's practicing his hardest. It's like you give him this extension and he hasn't stopped fighting during games. Is he going to fight more or less when he's making $27 million a year? No one can tell him no at that point. Now, I mean, it just seems like you've kind of emboldened him to be exactly the way he is if you give him all this money. He didn't have to change. He didn't have to look in the mirror and say, I wasn't really professional in the Super Bowl. And there's consequences for that. Like, no. I got all the money I needed. It was their fault. I should have got more targets. End of story.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you.
Yeah. So if they trade Brandon Aiyuk for a high first round pick and spend that pick on an offensive lineman, I wouldn't be against it. They'd have to get the pick right. But if they if they come away with an all pro young offensive tackle who could play left tackle in a few years, that's a great trade. I don't know that they can. I don't know if they will. Something to think about. Would Bill Walsh do it? Would Andy Reid do it? Maybe.
Final question. If the Niners trade Aiyuk, but they're not going to, how would the fans react?
The fans will always support the team.
I agree with you. They would say absolutely the right thing to do. They would always support the team.
Always. They might be upset for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And then their brain would start working. Okay, why did the team do this? Why did the team think this was a good idea? Okay. That's why I think. Sorry, not to be condescending to fans, but if you really, what I like about people who watch us is there's a little bit of a distance. They can enjoy the team and the game without getting emotionally wrapped up in it. But most fans get emotionally wrapped up in it. That's the point. And if you don't believe in what the Niners are doing, it's like, why am I rooting for this team? Well,
right.
So you got to believe if they trade DeForest Buckner, it's the right thing to do. If they trade Aiyuk, it's the right thing to do. Might be the right thing to do.
Was letting Sam Darnold go the right thing to do?
Not if they just elevate Brandon Allen and stand pat.
Right.
Yeah. Fish and Chip says Kyle was getting drunk while BA was making his tweets. Allegedly, according to you, don't get me in trouble. Aru Illustri has been a member for 22 months. Thank you very much. All right. Well, that's our show. The Niners will make more moves tonight and tomorrow. Free agency starts officially tomorrow. Stay tuned. Dad, I love you.
Love you, Iggy. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.